Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Midlife Realignment. I'm your host, Esther Blum, and I'm here to disrupt the narrative on perimenopause and menopause with humor, nutrition, hormones, and fierce self-advocacy. Together, we'll rewrite your story and the rules because there's a light at the end of the vaginal tunnel. Let's go. Happy New Year, everyone. By the time you're hearing this will be past New Year, but I am recording this just after the New Year. And I want to tell you that today's guest is yours truly. It is a solo episode. We have been having such great feedback on these solo episodes, and I'm here to support and answer any questions you have. So please go to estherblum.com to my podcast page, submit your questions there. You can also DM me on Instagram at Gorgeous Esther. And I really do take your questions to heart. I take them seriously. And so for that specific reason, today I'm going to be going through some of the most asked questions that I get on social media, some of my most popular posts on Instagram in 2025. And we're going to dive deep into the shit because you all need support, and I want to continue to educate and empower you and make you the best self-advocate that you can be. It really pisses me off when you don't have the tools or you don't feel confident in the office or you're intimidated by a white coat. And believe me, I've been there myself. And that is why I'm on a mission to never have you go through that again. That's really important to me. So it's funny. I'm going to start this by saying, I was combing through my feed yesterday and thinking, all right, let me just pull out the most asked comments and questions I get. And I came across, there is this naturopathic physician, God bless her. She has trolled me. She's trolled my page. She's made videos of me criticizing me and hormones. And it's so fascinating to me because what the biggest issue with all of this is the concerns around fear mongering. I get called out around quote unquote fear mongering women when I'm educating and empowering them around hormones. There is a real difference. I would never say to you, you better do this or this will happen. But I will look at the science, not personal bias. It's not my personal bias at all. And a lot of the doctors who criticize me promoting the benefits of hormones, none of them use hormones. That tells me that's personal bias. Whereas long before I used hormones on myself, I hadn't needed them for a long time. I was always promoting the use of them because science. So I look at the research, I tell you the research, it's always your body, your choice. I will always talk about the benefits of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy over birth control pills. But I have plenty of women who come into my feed and say, you know what? I tried bioidenticals. They sucked for me. I felt like I was losing my mind. I had horrible emotional side effects. And what worked for me was the pill. I'm like, great. More power to you. So I'm going to give you the straight dope and the facts, which is science, but there's no personal bias in it. Personal bias has no place in these conversations. The only personal bias you should have is with you. It's not me saying you must do this, you must do that. So I just want to clear the air on that. I'm going to say, here's what the science and the research says. Here's what's evolving. I may change this position down the road if science evolves, but right now, to the best of my knowledge, this is the best treatment. And by the way, I also see those benefits in the clients I'm treating in my practice. And that is a small study group in and of itself. So, I'm combining 3 decades of observational studies, if you will, in my own practice, plus all the science and research that I gather. And the people who teach me are GYNs, MDs, endocrinologists. I learn from all of them when I go to medical conferences as well. So if people, I get a lot of flack from people saying, you're not a doctor. No shit, I'm not a doctor. but I'm educated by doctors because doctors are not being taught what you need to know in medical school. So here I am, a dietitian, educating myself so that you can be educated because doctors are not yet. Now, I am working on that in 2026. I am working on getting medical school policy changed in medical schools. I can't talk too much about it yet because it's in the very early germination stages, but you better believe, ladies, I've got you and I'm working on this because medical school education for women and medical school education for menopause care is disgustingly absent and needs to be updated. All right, let's jump into the questions or the vibes that I'm going to give you. Okay, first of all, this was a very popular post that I made explaining one of the most important things that you can do in your menopause care. And this is this. Don't expect your regular provider to be hormone literate. Why is this? Again, your providers are smart people. They are intelligent. They are capable of learning. But our medical school system is not set up to teach them menocare. At most, currently, medical students get 1 week at most of education around menopause. And often the education is teaching women to either teaching providers to prescribe antidepressants and or birth control pills as the preliminary line of defense for menopausal care. It is so wild to me that this is the case because the FDA has approved the use of estrogen, vaginal estrogen, and progesterone, but yet there's this huge gap. So the FDA approves hormones, but doctors are not taught how to use them, and they're terrified of them. They're still, even though black box warning labels were removed off estrogen at the end of 2025, they were removed off every single estrogen product out there. So hallelujah for that. But providers still are not given the proper menopause education they need. So what happens is a lot of my clients tell me, they went to the doctor, the OB who delivered their babies, and they're like, great, now I'm in menopause. How about some hormones? And, are met with blank stares or prescriptions for the pill or, hormones cause cancer. So we do not expect, and even your primary care, you can ask. I did an earlier podcast on how to ask your provider for HRT, but if you're met with blank stares or kind of, that you're the one leading the way in your hormone care trajectory, not the other way around, then it's perfectly fine to seek out a more hormone literate provider. And, the simplest, fastest way is to work with me because I give my clients a nationwide directory of hormone literate providers and even some in Europe. But B, you can also call your compounding pharmacy. Every state has at least one, and say, what hormone literate providers do you love? Now, that could be an MD, medical doctor, could be an ND, a naturopathic doctor. It could be a physician's assistant or PA. It could be a GYN, could be your primary care doctor, but a hormone literate doctor is trained in providing bioidentical hormones. Now there are a lot of supposedly hormone literate trained doctors trained by the North American Menopause Society. They do train on bioidenticals, but there are plenty of doctors that train by NAMs that are still prescribing birth control pills. So do your due diligence when you go looking for a hormone literate provider. Call the office and say, I am looking for transdermal, that's topical, or fancy way of saying things you put on the skin, either creams or patches for estrogen and testosterone and oral micronized progesterone. Do you prescribe that? If they say they do pellets or injections, that's not going to be your first line of defense. If they say they do birth control pills, that's not going to be your first line of defense. So you will be able to quickly suss out whether someone will be a fit for you. But don't expect your primary care doctor to Be hormone literate. This is not a failing of your provider. It's a failing of the system. Okay. Let's go back to HRT. I did another post about how I get a lot of pushback on talking about HRT, and here's why I'm never going to stop. So first of all, hormones are not the only piece to the midlife puzzle. I'm a dietitian, so of course, diet is first. Gut health is first. The greater your gut functions and absorbs your nutrients and digests and processes those nutrients, the greater your menopause journey will be. I have had clients come to me with hot flashes. We don't automatically say, well, just go on estrogen. We treat the gut first, and they have resolved their hot flashes just by cleaning up gut function and balancing blood sugar, insulin, and lowering cortisol. So hormones are not the first line of defense out of the gate. Some of my women also come to me with fatty livers. 30% of women in perimenopause develop a non-alcoholic fatty liver. This is due to the decline in estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So when this happens, again, I have to often really support cleaning up that fatty liver before a woman is even a candidate for hormones. Number 2, strength training. Now, a lot of women who I work with are really exhausted. They've lost the ability to do heavy strength training or heavy workouts. That's okay. You can do power yoga, you can do Pilates, you can do exercise bands. You can do body weight, doing lunges and squats with your own body weight done properly can absolutely give you a workout. And then you can start adding in weights over time. But strength training is also a foundation for really optimizing your menopause care. Why is this? Because muscle is an organ of longevity. The more muscle we have, the better our quality of life. The lower the risk of falls, the more mitochondria we have that produce more energy, and the more insulin sensitive we have. So my favorite benefit of working out is eating more carbs because it makes me very insulin sensitive. So but for me, working out is just a lot cheaper than therapy and a lot less time consuming. And I do walking meditations anyway, so it is a form of therapy. But, for me, it's my endorphin rush. It's time for me to think, organize, restructure my day. It's just, and it's part of my sleep quality as well. It's just part of my overall menopause midlife care. And it has been for years. I've exercised a long, long, long time. Sleep is another big rock that's really important. Now, sleep can be managed with supplements, but there are times when getting hormones out of the gate can really, really optimize your sleep. I can tell when your second half of your menstrual cycle, or the luteal phase, the second half of the month, if you're on a 28-day cycle, if that is horrible for you in terms of insomnia and you really can't sleep, that's how some women like to take chaste tree to naturally boost their progesterone. I'm at the point in my practice where I know when a woman is really suffering and doesn't have the bandwidth to wait for 3 months for chaste tree to kick in. And I say, use 100 milligrams of progesterone, just those two, the second half of your, in your luteal phase, the second half of your cycle. And that alone can give a woman her sleep back literally overnight. So there are times when early intervention is really, really key. We also want to talk about stress management, okay? I'm a big believer in supplements, but you cannot just supplement your way out of your lifestyle. So if you're doom scrolling at night, if you're stressing yourself out, if you're not doing some conscious deep breathing or having some unwinding rituals, washing your face slowly, just giving yourself a mini facial and rubbing in your moisturizer and just putting on some lavender oil on your bed sheets and just doing some deep breath work or listening to a guided meditation or reading a book, quiet, not on a device, a real book, quiet time journaling. That stress piece, again, you can take all the supplements and hormones in the world. That doesn't manage it. So I always say this is a great time of year to put yourself on a 30-day challenge to meditate every day or every night for 30 minutes. It could be 5 minutes a day, but really unwinding. The lifestyle pieces are really, really important because no hormone will ever do that for you. It is something that you need to do on your own. Are you slogging your way through perimenopause? Do you feel like the dead lady in the bathtub in The Shining? I'm Esther Blum, integrative dietitian, best-selling author, and menopause survivor. With 30 years of helping women make menopause their bitch, I've created an elite program to help you reclaim midlife and get your life back with personalized hormone tests, gut healing protocols, custom supplements, and coaching with me. You'll reset your sleep, banish bloating, crush your workouts, and reignite that sexy spark, all in a badass community of women like you. Visit estherblum.com/elite to learn more. Supplements can also be a great adjunct to HRT because if you're not methylating or detoxing your hormones properly and you're taking some good ones, I love Cruciferous Complete, I love glutathione, I love taurine. All of those can really help your liver just push estrogen down the right pathway so that when you do start adding in HRT, you're not going to have the side effects, extra weight gain and bloating and breast tenderness, moodiness, irritability. So all of those can be really helpful when done strategically. But hormones themselves, then when you do introduce them, they are potent and powerful chemical messengers that are a game changer for a woman. I don't think most people realize that a woman in menopause has hormone levels that are lower than a man. So we are circling the drain. And I get so much flack online, saying my grandmother didn't take hormones, my mother didn't take hormones, she lived to a ripe old age. That may be true, but also let's think about quality of life. I'm here to give you a gorgeous quality of life. I'm not here to put you on mega doses of hormones or pump you up on pellets. I'm here to recommend you start a dose that is actually 1/5 of a birth control pill. Most of us are taking the pill 20, 30 years and then are terrified to take hormone replacement. Let me tell you, that little bit to restore you can absolutely be a game changer. And I have all the research to support. You can see the studies in the back of my book, See You Later, Ovulator. I post studies on social media when I'm quoting research articles. But at the end of the day, the science is there to support. But I'm just thinking of you as a whole happy person who's actually present in her life, enjoying having sex again, having pleasure, not having dryness or pain, having, solid bones, healthy cardiovascular system, healthy insulin levels, healthy cognitive function. These are the benefits that you get. Another great question I get asked, and I get asked often, is it too late to start hormones if I'm 10 years plus out of menopause, if I'm in my 60s or 70s and I went through menopause in my early 50s? The answer is no. It's never too late. Now, there's a caveat to that. You do receive and enjoy the greatest protective benefits of HRT when given within 10 years of menopause. And I say, to my own clients, that you're going to enjoy the greatest benefits when you start prior to the last 2 years of your perimenopause or when you really start having symptoms because A, you're going to smooth the transition, smooth the bumpiness, decrease the intensity of your symptoms. B, you want to still be sleeping in perimenopause, right? You don't want to have to sit and wait until you're menopausal to start treating. Okay. Now, when you do early intervention, again, this is science, not fear-mongering, I promise, but there is no greater effect on preventing bone fractures than early intervention estrogen. Most women are getting bone density tests. They're told to get bone density tests in their 60s. We should be getting bone density tests starting around age 45. That's right, ladies, because you want a baseline. They're not expensive, even if you pay out of pocket. It is a 2-minute test of you lying on a table and that wearing a gown, and that is it. You get up and the test is over. Really, really, really important. What estrogen does is, for bone density, is it maintains the density of the bone cells so that if you fall, your bones are so much less brittle and they actually have a slight bend to them on impact. So you decrease your risk of brittle bones and fractures and falls. And we know this. And there is a great book called Estrogen Matters by Dr. Avram Blooming. And the research studies are in there that explain how bones are protected better with estrogen. Now, do you need nutrients? Yes, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, K1 and K2, boron, all of those can really, really, really be beneficial. Number one. Number two, you have to have a functioning gut. You have to be making digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid in particular, because we don't absorb trace minerals without enough stomach acid. So both of those are really important to have. But also, estrogen has had the greatest impact on preventing bone fractures and falls. So you get, when you start within 10 years of menopause, you get that added benefit. You also get cardiovascular protection. So adding in hormones. Now, it's not just estrogen, it's also progesterone. And this is bioidentical progesterone, not synthetic progestins found in birth control, in a Mirena or an IUD or oral contraceptives. It's bioidentical progesterone. That has the greatest benefits and protection on cognition, memory, mood, cardiovascular health. Testosterone as well has all those benefits. So when we introduce hormones earlier, we decrease our risk of a heart attack. Heart attacks and bone breaks are the two biggest factors in mortality for women in menopause. And heart attacks are not diagnosed the same as women. Men will tend to get arm pain. Women can get shoulder pain, sudden nausea and vomiting. I remember watching Rosie O'Donnell go on her show and explain what happened to her when she had a heart attack. And it was such a wake-up call. And I worked in cardiology units in the hospital for 5 years. Women present so differently for a heart attack. So if we can prevent the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, if we can decrease cardiac inflammation, if we can decrease laying down of plaque, I say go for it. Why not? Okay. And then also early intervention helps maintain the pelvic floor and prevent the genitourinary symptoms of menopause. So what are the genitourinary symptoms? And oh my God, I have to tell you, it's the biggest. It's been one of my biggest symptoms, like sleep and the genitourinary symptoms of menopause. I watched my mother get Botox in her bladder. It was hysterical. I would take her to get it done with her urologist, and she would come home and my dad would look at her and he'd be like, "Your wrinkles are all gone." But she had to get Botox. She had such bladder urgency, incontinence issues. And, it can really be a game changer when you're up peeing 5 times a night, versus having vaginal estrogen. And you may need some pelvic floor therapy in there too. Lifestyle is really important. But having vaginal estrogen really helps. It protects the vaginal canal from thinning, from loss of collagen. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't enjoy having sex and having it feel like burning sandpaper between my legs or just always having burning and dryness. It's really uncomfortable. You can't wear jeans comfortably. You can't sit comfortably. You can't pee or wipe comfortably. So having vaginal estrogen inserted couple nights a week, 2 to 3 nights a week, can be such a game changer. And also, when you apply it to the inner folds, the urethra and the clitoris, you prevent atrophy there too. Those tissues can shrink up. Why? Well, those tissues all grow during puberty when your estrogen levels are rising, right? When you're becoming fertile, when you're becoming reproductive. Well, they all, because estrogen levels decline, those parts of the vulva can actually shrink or atrophy, and you can lose them. If you listen to the urologist Kelly Casperson, she will talk about how she examines her patients, and in some of those women, it's disappeared or really, really shrunk. Well, guess what? Those inner folds are a site for sexual pleasure. So you don't want to lose them at all. They have so many nerve endings. So just applying it topically, it's so gentle, so low dose. So if you are, to circle back now to the question, if you are in your 60s, 70s, will you enjoy all those benefits? No, but certainly the genitourinary symptoms piece, yes, that can be a game changer. You may have decreased your tissues, but you could still help with bladder control, preventing UTIs, all of those things, and sleep, quality of life, inflammation. Hormones are natural corticosteroids. So if you find you're really stiff, you're really achy, you're not sleeping well at night, you're still hot flashing, which women left untreated in menopause can still have hot flashes in their 60s, 70s. I've seen this in my clients too. So you can eradicate the hot flashes, you can help the sleep. So there's absolutely great quality of life pieces you can have, and it can improve cognition. The other big question I get from women is, do I need hormones if I'm not having any symptoms? They'll tell me, I don't need hormones after menopause. I don't want to take them. Hormones aren't natural. And they'll say, I've been told it's a natural process, something the body knows how to handle on its own. So while it's true that menopause is natural, it doesn't mean the body thrives in this new state without support. Our adrenals, our ovaries are making our hormones until menopause, and then our adrenals take over. But the adrenals produce 25 to 50% only of what we were producing before. So again, you can get into those quality of life issues and longevity issues that I've spoken about. I did fail to mention that early intervention HRT has now been shown to expand your lifespan an additional 1 to 3 years, which you may think, it's not, do I need to do that? I don't know about you, but I would actually like to be around to watch my son grow, to be with my husband, to enjoy life on this planet. Often symptoms are silent. Bone density loss doesn't make noise, right? Loss of cognitive function is very slow and gradual. We may not see Alzheimer's show up till our 70s if we've gone through menopause in our 50s and not replenished hormones. And also, I will say this, again, my practice is not thousands of patients at a time, but the quality of life struggles are incredibly real for most of the women I see, which is why they tend to get on hormones. Not every woman I work with wants them or decides to introduce them. So here's what I want to say to you if you decide not to go this route, or if you are currently under treatment, under tamoxifen for breast cancer, or you for many reasons you don't feel aligned or you choose not to take hormones. Number one, get regular checkups religiously every year. Get your mammograms done. get your blood work done, and I list in chapter 2 of See You Later Ovulator, I give you a comprehensive list of blood tests to have done that you can take to your doctor, okay? That is going to manage your metabolic markers, your insulin, your cholesterol, your thyroid, your fasting glucose, your CRP, your lipoprotein(a), comprehensive thyroid panels. You must get those done every year. You must be religious also about strength training, about optimizing your macros. And I also write about how to do all of this in See You Later Ovulator, and my book, Cave Women Don't Get Fat, really helps you optimize your macros. Okay. Stress management, bone density exercises, and really optimizing your gut function and your digestion and absorption of nutrients. You should work with a functional medicine provider to help you make sure that you're optimized, and you're going to need to take some supplements as well. So those can absolutely be quality of life issues, but I would implore you, the minute you are having symptoms, most women do have genitourinary symptoms. You can use vaginal estrogen. It is such a microdose. The Framingham Nurses study showed women on vaginal estrogen for 18 years, and it stayed completely localized in the vaginal canal. It doesn't raise circulating blood levels of estrogen, and also it's safe enough to even use while you are on chemotherapy, while you are getting cancer treatment. It is absolutely safe. So, think about it holistically. It should always feel aligned with you. You should always be working with a provider who is hormone literate, who explains the risks and benefits. If you decide you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Of course, it's your body, your choice. The goal is to empower and educate you. One more question I get a lot too that is tied into this is, what if you have a clotting disorder? What if you have factor V Leiden or a genetic SNP? The good news is that transdermal hormones have zero risk of clotting. If you have a clotting disorder, though, of course, when you fly, you should wear compression socks. You should get up. You should stretch your calves while you're sitting in the seat. Drink lots and lots of fluids. All of those still apply, but it's not a disqualifier. There are very few things that disqualify you from taking HRT. If you are 10 years out from taking HRT, the benefits far outweigh the downsides and the risks. You do have to have a cardiac workup, and you should also have a GYN workup and make sure that the thickness of your uterus is within a healthy range. All of those, once you are cleared, most women I see are cleared to go on HRT. I've only had about one client in the last 5 years who was not clear to go on HRT from her doctor, but on the whole, most people can. If you are concerned about cancer risk, if you have a strong family history, again, this does not preclude you from taking hormones, but you can work with a hormone literate provider who, I love Dr. Suzanne Fensky in the city. She's my functional GYN. And I send a lot of clients to her who have a high cancer risk. And she goes through and calculates out, the actual risk. And again, I haven't seen anybody not being able to go on hormones, even with a high family risk. This is also why I do the Dutch test in my practice, because the Dutch test is going to look at how you methylate or how you detox your estrogens, whether or not they're being pushed down the wrong pathway, or whether you need some liver support to actually guide your estrogen, your 4-OH estrogen, which is the most pro-inflammatory. You want it, metabolized and excreted properly out your liver. This is also why I do the GI map test, because it tells me if you are metabolizing and excreting estrogen out the gut. So once you have those safeguards and checkpoints in place, hopefully this gives you all so much peace of mind. But I do want you to continue to reach out to me, to ask me questions. I'm here to support you. And I'm going to ask you 2 favors. One is to please forward these podcasts to all the women you know who could benefit. Follow the podcast, which is now the new subscribe button, is if you just follow the podcast, because the more I can help other women find me, the more grateful I will be to support other women. But I really want to reach millions of women with this. And if you would be so kind to rate and review this podcast, it would mean the world to me, again, to help other women find this podcast. So plenty more to come. We're going to see you next week, and Happy New Year.
If you loved this episode, follow or subscribe to the Midlife Realignment wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube, and leave a review to help other women find this show.